What's going on, everyone? Dalibor here for T3G. Welcome. This is for those listening and watching in the future. This is the first episode of Passion as a Business, and today we are going to be talking with Jordan Wayne Long of HCT Media, Emmy award-winning producer, director, filmmaker,
Yeah,
all of those things.
yeah, that'll do.
We're streaming this live on Caffeine. If you are watching this after the fact, you can always check us out on Thursdays. Times may vary, but we'll have all the links down below. Make sure you check that out. And if you are listening or watching after the fact, make sure you do stop by on Caffeine, because then you get to ask questions during the show. Welcome, Hakrasant. How are you doing today? We're going to be talking, doing what you love as a business. That's kind of the whole kind of premise of this show. I've noticed that there are people that are coming to Caffeine with the intent of being broadcasters for a living, and whether that be, on a just strictly gaming or doing other things, everyone seems to have a variety of concepts of what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. So I wanted to talk to someone right off the bat who has been grinding in that game for a long time, and I think it was just serendipity that you are also on Caffeine, sir. And why don't you give me a little bit of an idea of how you got to where you are, how you got to be an Emmy award-winning filmmaker?
Uh, yeah, that's Matt and I just thought it would be funny to win Emmys, and when it kind of happened, it's interesting because like most things in life, it doesn't really matter that much. It's really about what you're doing at the present moment, it seems like. It was interesting for us too, like even that idea, winning those Emmys, we'd done that project maybe a year and a half before, and it was like we really didn't care that much. We cared about the project, but
You can't hear him.
Oh, you can't hear me? Hello?
Hmm.
Let's see. Am I too low?
No, I can hear you, but she
Okay.
cannot hear. The viewers cannot hear you. Well, that is interesting. Should be capturing the desktop audio.
Yeah, I feel like Discord should work okay.
Hmm.
It usually does. Let me jump on Caffeine.
Let's see. Actually, I've got it over here.
Okay, awesome. I gotta mute this. How do I mute? There we go.
Oh, that's why. I realize why. That's my
What's that?
mistake. That's my mistake. We need to switch to that. Go ahead and say something for me.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Croissant. Yes, I know. I figured out exactly what I did. I switched when we were trying to set up earlier. I switched to desktop audio, not my headphones, because I was expecting to be working over there when you called.
Nice.
Silly things.
This is a perfect example of one of my favorite things, like about being a creator, is that like we wouldn't have not known this if we wouldn't have took the risk of actually going live and
Right.
actually like putting something out there, and like we wouldn't have known that problem would existed. It would have hidden beneath the veil, and we would have thought everything was great and that we do everything well. But like actually just doing and producing and putting something out there creates the ability like for you to fail, and in that failure you fix things and you get better and you get better and you get better. And I see that a lot, like with joining something like Caffeine so quickly, like so early on, is that like you see people from week to week, like we're doing it with our shows. We've never done live shows before, and like we're still getting it. Like sometimes we're hitting the mark and we're like, damn, that was a good show, like let's add this next week and I think it'll make it better. And sometimes you're like, god, that's just not working, we got to revamp that. But that was when I mean, I know we want to jump into the origins and stuff, but when Matt and I were in grad school, that was one of the best things ever, was that we were in a very, very competitive grad school. And so like your crits, the things that you brought, never went well. Like it just didn't happen. You just would get ripped apart. And in getting ripped apart and in allowing yourself the ability to fail and fail big, when it just is a massive failure, there's something inside something that you do that's always works. And somehow, some way, it will get pointed out that like, man, all that sucked. But that little thing right there, that was good.
Right.
And so you take that with your tail between your legs, and you go back in your lab, and you build on that one thing that works, and you bring it back, and they're like, still sucks, but that works.
Right.
And you're like, okay. And so you're building these layers, and that's what I like about the way we've done it. And I probably like that because it's been failure and then success, and like, but I love the fact that now I know how that sandwich works. I know everything inside that thing, and I know how to repeat it. So I'm not like an overnight success. I'm not someone who got famous on YouTube and they don't know why their stuff works, and they'll
Right.
just make the same thing over and over and over and over and over again because
Sure.
they don't understand like what made everything great. And I think that's the only way you get like great, which we're not there yet, but the only way you get great is by failure and by allowing yourself, putting something out there, letting people rip it apart, having enough like passion to be like, I'm going to keep going. And then eventually like that critique of the audience is so good if you listen to it, if you know where to take critique and where to throw it away. And that's a whole nother ball game. But yeah, I love this idea. I love when things go wrong, when you're like, it's the worst thing on the planet, but then once you fix it, you'll never make that mistake again, and that's always fun. So,
Right, definitely.
I like that.
Definitely. No, I love it. Glark Cable, thank you for joining the broadcast, and thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. No, I 100% agree with Hakusan here. She says that it's a really great explanation, and I completely agree. I mean, like, for instance, my webcam seems to be freaking out right now, and that that's going to be something we'll have to figure out going forward. I know I know turning it off and on works for a little bit, so we'll have to keep doing that. But yeah,
that's okay.
So now you won your Emmys for a documentary that you did. What was the first piece of content that you shared with people? Like, what was the beginning? Like, what did you do when you said, you know what, this is really cool, I'm going to show people?
Man, you're going to get into a bag of weird. I don't know if you've looked up much about me, but I got into I got into grad school. It's going to be such a weird explanation, but I did undergrad. I took 2 photography classes in undergrad, went on to I was in a band, traveled across the country, played Warped Tour, that kind of stuff. And then, and then was a zookeeper in Kansas City. And like 2.5 years in, I was like, man, I'm just like, I have the best job in the world. Everyone tells me that, but like, I'm not fulfilled. And so I kept like using my camera, and I would take pictures on exhibit, and I would take pictures when we were doing procedures and things like that were like dangerous. And man, I was just like, man, I think I'm done. I don't know why I'm not happy, but if I'm not happy, like I just haven't found myself yet, I guess. And
definitely.
So I applied to grad schools, got into a few, didn't get into my backup schools, and those are the first ones to come in. And I remember being like, I am worthless. Like, but something I learned from that of not getting in these safety schools was that like I wasn't a safe person, and they didn't like that. And so I got into the schools I really wanted to get into, and I ended up going to this grad school called Cranbrook Academy of Art, and I started making there. And before that, of course, I had made like things in college and stuff, like movies and stuff that like everyone like forgives everything because it's just your friends, and like people are like, oh my god, I can't believe you made something, and like that's no criticism there, like that's not real criticism. I wasn't going to advance beyond that because everyone was just so nice. And thanks, Hot Croissant. But the first thing I shared was probably my performance work, and I drug myself behind a car like 14 times, and then cut that up into a performance piece, and then had my first crit. I had never done anything like that before in my life, and it actually was met with positivity. And like in grad school, it was like, you're onto something, man. And I was like, all right. So I started putting these things out, and I started doing this performance work, and that's where I met Matt, who's the other half of HCT Media, and we started like making stupid videos in between making our artwork. And yeah, grad school like was really good and hard for me. And when I got out, I got a show in Portland, Oregon, and they're like, what are you going to do? And I was like, man, I've always believed in like I said, like if you're going to fail big. So like I'm gonna do something big, and my work kind of works. It's dealing with like post-traumatic stress and everything that comes along with PTSD. And it's not going to make sense on Caffeine TV, but you can look at my work on jordanwainelong.com. You can see all my videos, my performance art videos. And but yeah, I was like, I'm going to ship myself across the country while locked in a box and playing an online video game. And the rough explanation of that is because I actually ended up helping with an offshoot at the MIT Media Lab with a video game for the Pentagon, because I'd done a bunch of research about how video games block sensors that PTSD patients have. And so like when they play certain video games, they can't activate those like horrific images, and so it like keeps them calm. So I was just like, I'm gonna play out this idea. I'm very claustrophobic. I'm gonna lock myself in a crate. I'm gonna play an online video game that I have a community built around in, which was Lord of the Rings Online. And I was locked in a crate for 7 days with 23 protein bars and 5 gallons of water and a place to pee and poop basically, and that's it. And
wow.
And so that was my first experience with putting something out into the world, because it was nuts. My gallery was like, that was in Portland, was like, you're gonna have to get people there. And I was like, okay. So it was my first attempt at marketing. I talked to a few friends that were really good at marketing. I went in and I devised like a story around it, because I knew it was a ludicrous story and I knew people wouldn't understand. And so I sent it out to everything, Kotaku to MSNBC to NBC, like it didn't matter. I sent out an email blast in the morning, and within 2 hours, I had like 300,000 hits on my website. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, I don't even know what just happened. And it was just like on, and my gallery owner called me. By the way, he's a piece of crap. I did not like that guy and still don't. But anyway, he was like, what are you doing? I was like, you told me to get people to the show. And he's like, oh my God, not like this. Like, this is nuts.
It's too many.
I was like, well, it's too late now, man. I don't know what to tell you. But what was really interesting is I hadn't even figured out at that time how I was going to get internet access on the road. I didn't like this performance was a month away, and I was still building everything. So like I had the entire internet emailing me, telling me what a piece of crap people hated this idea. Like, I can't believe the government's paying you money to like ship yourself. And I'm like, man, I'm literally working hardscape and construction in Boston to pay for this thing. Nobody's paying, but people make up their own narratives. And I quickly realized what getting hated on the internet felt like where you feel like for 2 weeks, you feel like the whole world hates your entire being. So I went on like everything from like NPR radio tours to like, Detroit, morning shows. Like, we got this stupid son of a bitch back here. He's shipping himself across country. Hey, Jordan, welcome. And I would just be like, hi. And I tried to stay calm and do that thing. And so it's interesting. Once I got past that, and once I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how to do this performance yet. Once I figured out those stumbling blocks, like, I really like rigged a computer. I built a computer. I took a 3G Verizon stick. I slapped a pure sine inverter on the van to keep the signal clear. I grabbed a 7 dB repeater that like my uncle would use as a truck driver, and I slapped it on the 3G internet stick and duct taped it literally to it, plugged it in, did a test run in the mountains of Arkansas. I got internet well enough to stream like 30 FPS like a second. Like it was absolutely nuts, man. And I was like, wow, this works. But if I hadn't have put that out there and I hadn't have said I was going to do it,
right,
what would have made me actually try that hard? Because the whole internet was like, you're going to fail, you're going to die in there. And I was like, well, I really don't want to die just because I don't want you to be right. And so that was my first experience with like putting something out in the world and just being like, and you know what, like, it was one of those things where like I come from a very small town in Arkansas, a town of like 3,000 people, where nobody gets out, nobody really does these kinds of things. No one understood me, but I remember talking to my mom, and I remember, I remember just being like, my mom was like, well, do you know why you're doing this? And I was like, yes, I know exactly why I'm doing this. And I know why I need to do this. And she's like, well, that's really all that matters. And I
There you
took
go.
that idea, and the show went off. It went well. It went great. Lots of people, everybody saw this thing. Everybody was like, what's next? All that kind of stuff. And I remember getting a call from the industry lab, which is this offshoot of the MIT Media Lab. And it was this guy named Jamie. And he was like, hey, man, I was at your Cranbrook show at grad school. And I just saw what you did, like with the box, man. I'm starting this like offshoot of the MIT Media Lab. Do you want to be a part of it?
Wow.
And it was one of those things. It was that first instance of like, it doesn't matter how many people see what you do. It's the fact that like, you know what you're doing and the right people see it, because all I needed was this one guy to see it, apparently. And
Right.
I went up and I worked at the industry lab for a couple years while I was doing art. Started doing art like across Europe and things like that. And those are crazy, crazy stories on their own. But did some really interesting stuff and had conversations at till 4 in the morning with Harvard graduates and MIT Media Lab folks and everybody you can think of, and got to stretch my mind and ended up like those kind of things that you think matter. Like I got a world record and I didn't even ask for it, and when it comes, it's just something funny to say. Like
Right.
when I'll go lecture places or at universities and stuff, like people will often like be like, he's a world record holder. It's just like, I don't
Welcome
care
to Broadcast, Matt Glass.
like I don't care about any of this. Matt Glass tuning in. Hey, did you get your sushi, buddy? But Matt's been working. Matt's my partner in HCT Media, and we are on a strict deadline for a feature documentary that we're turning in tomorrow night. And so
Tomorrow night.
Matt actually got out and got some sushi so that he didn't, completely want to destroy his life.
Understandable.
So I'm glad he did. But yeah, so that was probably the first instance of like putting something out in the world and being like, oh, this is what it feels like to be hated. Like this is, and I got through that and I lived it, and I still want to do it again and like bring it on. Like, like I talked to so many people who hated me on the radio, and I was like, man, I stayed calm because I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. And it didn't bother me. And I was like, all right. So when Matt and I started making stuff when we moved out to LA, which we can talk about later, the first time we had something together go viral and we just started getting hate, and our documentaries were the most benign, sweet things on planet Earth, and people just hated it with a passion, hated us with a passion.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like the things that people latch onto is mind-blowing to me.
Well, but it makes sense, right? Like if you're out there and you're in a job you don't like, because all of us have been there, and you're doing something you don't want to.
Most of us are there now.
Yeah, and you start seeing, and you see someone who's doing what you want to be doing, or doing something that they clearly enjoy.
Welcome, Coco.
That hate comes out, and it's not their fault. Like, yes, it is their fault. They can be terrible people, but to a big extent, it's just this thing of like, man, I would just like to be doing what you're doing, and I'm frustrated, and it's coming out in anger because I just want to be doing what I love too. Like, why do you get to do it and I don't?
Right.
And, I think that's a lot of it. And so once you get past that, it makes everything a whole lot better.
You know what? I completely. I've been there. I've been at that exact spot. We when we launched our YouTube channel, we were hardcore tech review, and we were like, we're gonna do the like tech reviews popular. You got Unbox Therapy and all these guys like kind of doing their own thing. Like we're gonna do our version, and we're just gonna do it up. And then a year later, we're looking at people who started after us with more subscribers, more views, and we're just like, man, like we make good stuff. Like why are people not, So like it was that positioning of like, like I'm doing everything I can, and I'm watching this person who is doing the same thing, and I'm just like, I really want to be in that place. So I completely get that. Like I get that side of it for sure.
Yeah,
like, it took a long time to like switch off of that. It took a long time to switch off.
My God, Matt and I still struggle with that. There's all the times like I can't even tell you how many things we have done since we've been out here, and we have just consistently stretched ourselves and to keep seeing how much better we can get. And there are people that make it that don't deserve to. There are people that are, and that's great. But there you still have those moments of envy and just like, getting mad and being like, what? Why did they make it? And I'm like, we haven't yet. And to that extent. And then you look at me and you're like, man, I'd like to be making fiction films. And you have that thought with me. And like, there's always someone, you're always going to have people that are like, I'd like to be doing what you're doing. And and that person always has someone that they're like, I want to be doing what they're doing. And it's just this constant thing. And it's figuring out how to be happy where you are without being stagnant, without, with still being like, I got to create, I got to figure this out. I got to get better every time. Like,
right. Yeah, I think it's the difference of like having an end goal versus having like milestones. Like for me, like for us on the YouTube channel, it's been we were like, oh, we never said we want X amount of subscribers. Like we thought that was just like a death rattle. Like we would say that and then it would just go downhill. Like we would maybe like just work on just getting those subscribers and not creating and making our stuff better and improving.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's been very much like I want to make sure that I can execute certain shots. And when like I did this, I'll tilt this up here. I did this vertical setup so I can get top down views.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want this. I worked to figure out how to do it, what was going to be the best option. So, and like, that was cool for me. Like, that was a moment for me. Like, it doesn't matter for me. Like, I appreciate all the subscribers that show up. I appreciate the people that watch. But like, for me, it was like, I got that to work. I got it to work in a way that like I can execute it every time and it's excellent. It's just an extra angle for me. So that was my milestone.
Yes. And if you look at the work that Matt and I have done and everyone else who creates it with us, like you will directly see like an arc as we're like, we want to try this. Like our first fiction film that we did, like that we really tried, that was like not comedy. We didn't even put like people talking in it because we were frankly too scared to write dialogue that was serious. We loved writing comedy stuff. We're like, but it doesn't matter, right? Like if people see comedy stuff and it's not good, they're just like, it's just not a good comedy.
Right.
But there's something different when you try something for real and you try drama and you feel something serious that like, if that fails, it hurts so much more. And so like you see each time we're like, okay, now we're going to put dialogue in it. Okay, now we're going to do this. Can we do puppet animation?
Thanks,
Can we add some visuals behind that? Can we add some like CG to that? Like, and we've just stepped up every time, and we still that with our features. Like, we just keep trying to up the bar because no one's going to make you up the bar, really.
Right,
like,
exactly.
You're the only person that can like stretch you to the limits of what you can do, and so you have to constantly be like, okay, what have we not tried before? What have we not done? Okay, let's try that. So like that's brought us to where we are today because you always have that thing where you're like, okay, next time. It's just like Pixar, right? Like we're gonna do an underwater, like we've never done underwater. Well, let's do a whole film of it, just so we have to figure it out. Like that's brilliant. That's that's how it has to be. Otherwise, no one's gonna push you there because they want to be there too. So,
for sure. That's like you said, no one's going to push you because even if you, let's say you make it, you break through into the corporate world and, if you're doing, let's say, photography and you're doing X level of photography and someone sees it and they're like, hey, I want you to come and do like product shoots for me. And you could do that level of photography forever. They're never going to ask you to get better. You have reached the plateau that they need you to be at, and that's it. So it has to be an internal drive. You have to want to get better for this, essentially the sake of the craft, for where you want to be versus like having arbitrary goals of like, all right, I want to work here, and like once they say, all right, you're in, you don't, theoretically you never have to get better than that because once you're in, you're in. Like,
of course, Matt and I could have stayed making documentaries our entire lives and been just fine. People would have been super into it. And like when we started to be like, we want to make fiction stuff, people were like, man, no need to.
No,
literally, people telling us that like, you guys have a great thing going, like no need. And just for us, that just wasn't acceptable. So like that transition was tough and interesting. And a lot of people were just like, because a lot of people were like, you're fine. Why are you doing that? So yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think there is a mentality of once you can execute the thing that like will pay the bills, let's say, people just expect you to just do that until you die. And
yeah,
I think the creator like heart and mind, you're always going to want to do something different. You always want to improve and increase somehow.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's just it's like a fundamental core element of our being.
Yeah, definitely, totally agree.
So, you mentioned this silent film. How long was it? What? Let me rephrase that. What made you, besides the fear of putting in dialogue, what made you kind of make it the format it was, and what made you, like, what drove you to set that movie the way it was?
Let's see. Well, I mean, we knew we wanted to make short films because we were like, we want people to see what we can do, but we don't have really that much money. What do we do well? So for us, we do a very good job of making a small amount of money look like a lot, which a lot of people claim that. I actually feel like we actually do that, and I knew that we had like connections with like people that build props. I can build props. I can build sets. I can't come from a construction background, so I have that. Matt has been doing visual effects on his own, learning on his own since he was like probably 11 years old. Like, we have this ability to go from front end to back end without much stuff. So we're like, okay, like 5 or 6 of us can do something that like it looks like it's a 12-person crew. So we're like, let's go out somewhere. Everybody shoots in LA. Everything looks like it's shot in LA. Let's go somewhere else. So we're like, let's travel somewhere. Let's actually pay our actors something, because we had a budget of like $375, and $125 of that, yeah, I guess $300 of that went to the actors, because
Oh, wow.
actors don't get paid out here. So like, if I can pay you something, I respect you. And like, it really feels like, yeah, when you get up into the big levels, actors always get pampered, but not at this level. Like, they do not. They're just asked to just kind of do. And so for us, we're like, it's important that we treat people, because they'll tell people that we actually pay something and care about them. And so we did that, and the rest of the money, we built props, and we did a little bit of like visual effects, and we did some like motion tracking stuff and stuff
Oh,
like
wow.
that. They hadn't done that much before. And really within that, we do like, can we create a world that just feels different? It feels like it's off world for really essentially $75. And I feel like
Welcome,
we
sure you
pulled
can.
that off. And like, we had one of the actors, like we had an actor who'd been on a huge Nickelodeon show, and we had one of the actors from Heroes.
Oh, wow.
And we only paid him $125 a day, but they saw what we did, they saw what we wanted to do, and they
That's
were like,
awesome.
we'll take a chance on you guys. And so that was that. That's kind of what our mindset was. Like, let's just do something a little different. And honestly, something that drives Matt and I so much, and like, whether this is a good thing or not, I do not know. But like, I think everyone does feel this. When someone says you can't do something, you're just so driven to prove them wrong. And there were scripts that, like, whether or not they're perfect, we knew that they had a place to be made. And like, we worked with some people that were like, didn't feel that way, and wanted to take our skills and our drive and use them for their own stuff, but not really let us share our own visions. And so there's literally scripts that we've made that we just did because 2 people were like, you shouldn't don't make that. And we're like, okay, we're going to try really hard, and we're going to make this look good. And like, there's a short called I Hate Mondays that is a direct result of that, of people
I
reading
love
it.
that, by the way.
Nice.
I have not
Thanks.
said enough about that short.
Thanks.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it for the longest time. Like, while watching it, I'm just like, why is it going? And then I realized what was happening, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's weird, and like, and it's like, it's not perfect, but man, like, I'm so proud of how we did that. Like, that was our first experience with getting insurance, with using a real shooting location in LA, like shooting 30 shots a day. We shot that in 2 days. We had quite a few actors. We had to really it was like going and getting props from a prop store, which you think would be super simple, but it's not, because you have to have like $1 million insurance to just rent out props in LA. And so it's like, make me go through all that logistics, because then I know if I really want to be a producer,
Right.
I need to know all the crappy stuff that I have to do. And like, God, we've learned so much every time we do something. And that was really let's go get props just because I don't know how to do it. So now I don't walk in there all green like I don't know what's going on. I'm like, yeah, this is going to cost me double of whatever it is, because because I don't have like the insurance they need, so I know I'm going to have to pay double, and I'll get that deposit back. But it's like all these things that you're just like, I don't know how this works. And the only way you're going to do it is if you dive in and do it, because otherwise you're going to be like, you know what, let's just do it like the same way we did before, because that's easy.
Right.
And you see a lot of people making web series. You see a lot of people making movies, cutting them up into like web series lengths and putting them out because they're too scared to deal with making a film SAG, because my God, is it a monster. But like, it's like, that's good. Maybe that works for them, but they probably aren't going to get any farther because they're too scared to take that leap and be like, and figure that out, all the paperwork, and spend weeks on the phone with people just trying to like be like, oh, I did that wrong. Great. Now I got to go back. It's just a process.
It's like government forms.
Yeah, it is. And it's like,
you're in the wrong line. I'm going to need you to get back at the back of the other line.
Yeah, exactly. And the best thing to know is that like every time you want to quit, if you don't, someone else has quit at that point, and now you don't have to deal with them, and you don't have to like worry about them as competition. And I think like we look at that a lot. We look at things that way a lot. Oh, you guys are all right. I love it.
So we've brought in some of those elements. I think Harsant mentioned here the hardest part about following your passion, and I'd like to ask what your thought is on that. What has been the hardest thing to deal with on a daily, weekly, monthly kind of like, is it like the having to make those forms and do all the paperwork and all that stuff? Is it more so the like? I know we talked last night regarding some of the insecurity periods where you're limited in your what you can do and your funding and all that stuff. What's the hardest part about like truly following your passion?
Man, hey Irene, thanks for joining. God, there are several things about following your passion. I mean, we could go on a very big, honestly, like I lost, and now I'm so happy that happened, but I lost a marriage because of my drive to go and my drive to do what I needed to do. I didn't know myself yet. And when I went into grad school, I thought I was going to be a teacher, and there were multiple other issues. But one of the biggest things was like when I started dragging myself behind the cars and like doing all these crazy things, people looked at that as insanity, except for the people who knew me and knew that I could take care of myself and knew why I was doing it. And so following my passion has cost me marriage, but it has brought me the ability to actually find myself, and for me, that's like absolutely priceless. It brought me to my to finding Matt, and doing HCT Media. It has helped me find the people. It found Tara for me. Just like it's been following my passion has brought so much good, not just in the professional world, but the hardest part is that constant need. Man, the constant need to get better, the constant feeling that you're not enough, that no matter what you do it will never be enough for you, because we do this thing. If you have a passion, if you're following it, no matter what good things happen, within an hour of the good thing happening, you immediately have this lull where you're like, oh God, you either feel like you faked your way into it, or you feel like you can never repeat it again, or you feel like, I mean, that's just what it's like having to keep yourself motivated. You're always going to feel like that. And I feel like if people realize that that's such a normal thing for no matter where you are in your career, like it would be easier. But people don't want to tell you about that. People only want to put up, it's that social media idea of just wanting to put up the positive things. Like,
right, just the victories.
Just the victories, but everyone feels defeat, like on a daily basis. And what you really have to do is figure out how to like keep that defeat from really going so low that it just takes you out of the game. Always set the trail, never follow the path. Yeah, it's exactly right. Like Surrey, and that's the thing. Like, you can ask 100 people, how do I get to this spot? And you're not ever going to be able to follow that path. That's just not how it's going to work.
Right.
And what's going to set you apart is not being on that same path. What's going to set you apart and make you be found and people to really like want you for your individuality is the fact that you didn't get there the same way. Like, I can't even tell you, for Matt and I, like, we come from very small towns, very poor upbringings. We're like, honestly, there's probably 4 people in grad school that had to have loans. Everybody else just paid them off like with money. And Matt and I were one of those people that like, but it's our adversity in getting to where we are that will let us succeed more than other people. Like, yeah, we didn't like grow up in LA and we don't know this business, but that's also something that like helps define us and helps us be better. We don't know where other people have failed. And so we just go for it. We just run straight on into it. And there's something very amazing about that ability to not be scared because you don't know. And like, if I knew how much work it would have taken to get to where we are right now, I don't know if Matt or I, I don't know if I would have pursued it. I don't know if like when I was comfortable and even though I was unsatisfied, when I was in this comfortable place, because your brain wants that, if I would have known all this before grad school, honestly, I don't think I ever would have done it. I'd be like, I'm going to lose my marriage? Are you serious? Like,
right.
I don't know that I would have done that. So,
right. If you just heard the rough stuff, would you still make the same moves?
Exactly. And here's the thing. I truly believe, I think at this point in my life, I would choose that. I feel like I know myself, and the things that have happened to me, I realize that those are the best things that ever happened to me, because I took that tragedy and I took that trauma of whatever it was, and I was like, I'm going to make that the best part of my life. I'm going to make that the moment that I turned everything around and was like, I'm never going to be this person. I'm going to go this way. So
I love that. That's an excellent line. Metal has to be hammered to get stronger.
Yeah, there's nothing truer than that. I mean, that's exactly right. And I feel like our metal has gotten stronger every time we fight down something that didn't let us be where we wanted to be. And you always find that you're always like, I'm ready to be a director of a feature film, right? And then like, really, you're probably not. Right. And then, and I'm not saying you can't, but like, you've got to take those steps to get there. You've got to be like, I got to make those short films. Whew, that was hard. Okay, I got to do that 27 days in a row. Okay, maybe I'm not quite ready for that. Okay, now I'm going to do it for 4 days. Now I'm going to do it for 7. Like, right. Okay, now I'm going to jump in and do that feature film. Wow, we got through that. Man, okay, we can do this again. Like, it's just those, you got to give yourself these little victories to keep yourself going. And that's that's something that you have to keep in mind. Like, you have to have those small goals for your macro goals. You got to have those small goals that you can have those little victories. Matt does
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. One of the like best phrases I've learned in the last year has been, welcome General Aaron. One of the best phrases I have learned in the past year has been micro speed, macro patience. Like, we have huge ideas. Like we had this idea years ago, before we even thought about doing fiction production like regularly at all. We had this idea when the show Dexter ended to do a follow-up of just this like short form thing with his son after he grows up. And we were like, cool, like we're gonna do that. And we set a date, like it's on the calendar, because we wanted to do it exactly 15 years later. So like the kid grows up, he's like, it's him. But then we really haven't done anything towards that. We were just like, we're gonna do this. We put it on the calendar, but then now we're at a position where I'm thinking, like that's gonna be a lot of work, like to actually make that look good and to get the same, because that show I think was done really, really well. The production, like everything was done really, really well about it. So I would want to create a good product. So, thinking about these little things that we want to do, we want to do these little skits and stuff like that. Yeah. That's something that is going to just build, like you said, it's going to build that. So like once we finish our first skit and we put that out there next month, that's going to be awesome. Like right now, that's where my head is at. I just want to get that skit done, and that's it. That's it. Just one single, 2-3 minute piece of fiction. That's it. You know, and then we'll work on that 15, 20-minute short for, 2025 or whatever we set it for. But like it's something to build on. Like, like I said, micro speed, macro patience. Like I want to do something huge, but you can't do something huge tomorrow.
Right. Those arbitrary deadlines are so important, because no one, like, we made our own content when we first started out. We were like, let's shoot 7 documentaries and like, let's put them out every 2 weeks. No one told us we had to do that.
Right.
And there was no indication that would in any way work. But we just needed that. We needed that deadline so that we actually followed through. And we would get to those deadlines and we're like, we're putting it out on Friday. And Matt would be like, I'm not super happy with the music. And we both just kind of decided, like, too bad. Like, just put them out. And put it out, market it. And, like, that's how I taught myself. Like, these videos, Matt was like, nobody's going to watch these videos. And I was like, well, that's my job. And so, like, I just sat down and I was like, it was just like combing the internet. And I was like, I just built a marketing, like, mind, just because I was like, I want this to work so badly. I want what we're creating to be wanted. And so that's how I kind of started, like, marketing our stuff. And it was just pure, like, no one else is going to care if I don't.
Right.
And so
exactly.
That's
if you don't do it yourself, exactly. If you don't do it yourself, if you don't put the time in yourself, that is then no one else is going to do it for you. No one else is going to, like, I talk about, like, we're only at a certain number of subscribers, and like, that number really is arbitrary. It doesn't matter. But, like, unless I'm out there sharing and putting it out, no one else is going to do it. Like,
no one else. I mean,
and people, and there's, like, in terms of the internet marketing and all that stuff, there's organic growth and all that stuff, and, like, people will share eventually. But, like, you can't count on any of that. So at the end of the day, you have to put the legwork in, because at the end of the day, you're the one responsible. If people do or don't share, that's incidental. That it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Man, listen, I was just talking to Matt and Tara about this idea. We're keynote speakers at a university, and, like, we're going to meet all these classes and marketing classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, you said, 14 classes in 2 days?
Yeah, it's nuts. And I think most of those are in one day. And wow. But, I was thinking about, like, views, and, like, we have, like, I don't know, 4,000 viewers on YouTube, or subscribers, whatever it is. I don't really care. That's not, like, what I'm trying to do.
Right.
And, like, views for me, like, views are, like, get thrown across, like an icy pond. and like they kind of matter, but they don't really. But what matters is, like, some of those views sinking down and, like, penetrating through the ice and getting down into the water below. Yeah. And, like, that's what you have to do. And you have to create that ability to break through that ice in certain sections. And, like, when you do, honestly, like, I know you've probably heard us talk about this, like, our videos that have 350 views, like, are the most important videos we've ever made.
Right.
We've spent months and months and months on a video that, like, actually close to a year on a video that probably has 400 views on YouTube right now, but it has mattered more than anything for our career. And it's like, you just have to understand who you're trying to reach.
Sure.
You have to hone in on getting those people to watch. And if something goes viral and it happens for you, great. But know where your bread is buttered, and, like, know who you're really trying to go after. And so, like, we just don't care about that. I'm just like, I want these 15 people to see this thing. And, like, if it goes viral, great. That's wonderful. But I'm not going to get, we've had things go viral, and we know that then it goes away, and we know that's not, like,
exactly
something super sustainable. And now it's important that you take advantage. Like, you've got to always be ready for things to happen. Like, that was my biggest thing on the first time that things happened for me with my performance piece, is I wasn't really ready for what was going to come next. So, like, I've taken that idea and always had it, like, in my mind now. So when we make something, I already know what we're going to make next, because I know that when people are into this, they're going to be like, well, what are you doing now?
Right.
And you always
doesn't matter what you did last week. It doesn't matter what you did last year. What are you doing
Not at all.
now?
Exactly. So, like, that's something, like, we live by, and we live by that with our feature right now. Like, we're waiting for it to get back from sound design, and then Matt's making the music for it, and, like, we're just now taking distribution meetings on this film, but we've already pushed ourselves to create the next film.
Wow.
And know when we're going to shoot it, go ahead and getting those investors, and like we're already doing that because we know that like when we go into those meetings and they're like, well, what are you guys doing next? We're not sitting stagnant. We're like, this is what we're doing it this
Right.
at this time, like on this budget. This is like, you want to follow us. Everyone wants to jump on a train that's already moving. Everyone wants to jump on a train that's already moving. They don't want to jump on a train that's like needs to get started. And like,
For sure.
If you have that idea, I think that's like so important. I think that's such an important thing for us. It's like, we honestly decided we were going to shoot a feature film without any investors on board yet. And we just said, I don't care, we're making it. And as soon as we did, we started getting calls of like, you guys already like full up on your investors? Like, are you guys like, is there any room or anything in that? And I was like, yeah, we've got room. It's not a lie, because we got plenty of room.
Right, exactly.
But you know what I mean? Like, you just like, because you know what? You better believe we were going to make that feature film whether we got investors or not. It was going to happen. So I'm not worried about lying to people. It's going to happen. But like, I knew what I needed, and I knew that I had to start that train on our own. Otherwise, nobody else is going to start it. And people called and they're like, God, I've been waiting for you guys. I've been waiting for you guys to shoot a feature.
Nice.
And like, well, I didn't know that. Never
Right.
talked to that person
Right.
about that idea before. But you know, that's just part of it. That's what
For
you
sure.
got to do. I'll need that Irene, our YouTube link. It's Rain short film by HCT.
Rain is outstanding. Rain is a trip. Rain is a trip. I'm not gonna lie, that was a good watch. And then I'm lobbying, and I would like everyone to lobby Netflix to pick up Ghost of the Ozarks. I think Ghost of the Ozarks would be an outstanding Netflix original.
Hey, that has its own feature written with it. That has actually, I can send that to you. Like, it has its own pitch decks. It has its own Bible. Matt and I and Tara all have films that we've worked on together and that we've written separately that
Nice.
we're all going to shoot together. And like, Ghost of the Ozarks is a proof of concept for a feature that we knew we wanted to make. We made that feature. I'm
so psyched for that. It was such. I watched it. I was like, damn, this is really good, because that was the first thing I watched. I watched. So like,
Nice.
I was like, that was really good. And then like in Rain, like I told you, like it's a puppet movie, and like I had seen the trailer with the like behind the scenes stuff, but like it's done so well. It like washed out of my head as soon as I started watching it. So like, I didn't think about any, like I knew how the sets were built, but it didn't matter. I was just following the story, and then there's just one little shot where you see like the puppet wire, and I was like, holy crap, like I just realized like there's puppets in this movie. Like, I've never seen any of the wiring. It was so like, man, I'm geeking, but like I really want you to know that I'm not like, you know, playing to you. Like, I really, really dug those movies.
Thanks, man. I'll tell you, like, Matt, that's Matt's story. And when we were in grad school, Matt wanted to make Rain, and he tried a Kickstarter, and it didn't work. But I wanted to make that film so bad for him. He wrote the music to it, and I remember the first time that I listened to the Rain theme, I just like was bawling, and I was like, I know how much this movie means to you, Matt. And I was like, we're gonna make this in 5 years. When we got out to LA, and Matt was so sacred of like this story that he was like, I'm gonna be really hard on you. I'm gonna be like, he's like, this has to be right. And I think we made it within 3 years of being out here. And I'm so proud of that fact. I'm so proud that we got hooked up with Henson.
Right. That day where you were saying you worked with Henson on that, and I was like, that's such a crazy that's such a crazy mental to me, because like that's like, you know, that's like somebody saying I wanna go into football, and then like working with the Bears, you know, working with the Kings, like you just like that's just mental. Like that's a huge thing.
I'll tell you a story about that I think like would inspire you. The thing about always, like, you have to always be ready, like we just said, and you always have to be prepared for luck. Like there is definitely an element of luck in everything that we do, but what makes you successful is that you're ready for that luck to hit and you're ready for it to happen. And like we have been making puppet shorts, we had been making our own puppets. There's a short called Good Morning. It's on a channel called Effin' Funny, and you can watch that. And that short that we did for again like $350, that short is what we when we got documentaries, we were going to do documentaries for the Jim Henson Company. We walked in there, we started shooting because that's our goal is like to get to know everyone so that they like will get comfortable with us around the camera. We're sitting around lunch the day that we get there, the first day that we get there, and they're like, well, what do you guys do? And we're like, man, we really love puppets, actually. Like, we make short films, we make documentaries before we really, and they're like, well, show us something. And if we didn't have anything, if we were just like, God, we've just been big fans, like, I know Jim Henson's, like, I know everything about the man, like, that doesn't count.
Right.
But the fact that we had Good Morning and we had a couple of other puppet things, we just showed them right off, and they were just like, this is awesome. And all those individual people were like, if you guys ever want to work on anything, let us know. And I was like, and I just went back and talked to Matt, and I was like, we got to do Rain. We have to do this. Like, and he was like, well, let's shoot a trailer in our backyard. And I was like, and so I brought Mark out, who I've known since college, and we just built those sets that you saw. And like, a very specific thing about putting out that trailer is I knew a lot of people would watch that trailer, and I wanted them to know, like, yeah, we could create the illusion that it's like this big budget film. That's not what it needed to do.
Right.
It needed to go like, are you kidding me? Like 3 people made this thing. Like
Right.
that's what I wanted. And so like I wanted to show you, like we wanted to show you how small it was, and then have to work to get you back to like convince you that it was a big world. And so what you said just then is perfect. And yeah, and I mean that film helped us get a job at Paramount, shooting the marketing campaign for the Arrival movie, and helped us get, like, God, it still helps us to this day because it really hasn't it went on, like, it premiered at Atlanta Film Festival and several others, and so it really has only been out for like 6 months, but the people that we needed to see it, we showed them privately and that kind of thing.
Right.
And yeah, so that's what happened.
So that was gonna be my next question. You had mentioned to me Arrival before, and I thought that was crazy that, like, again, something that I really, really enjoyed watching. I thought that movie was really good. And you had said that you had worked on that, and I thought that was cool. And you mentioned Henson. Like, are those like the 2 kind of biggest things? Like, have you worked with any other like what else can you name drop just for the sake of name dropping?
Well, Matt and I, second unit directed Karen Gillan, who Karen Gillan is from Doctor Who and Guardians of the Galaxy and Jumanji.
Sure is.
She asked us to come and second unit direct her first feature film that she was directing.
Oh, wow.
And so last year we did that in Scotland. We were over there for about a month and a half shooting that. We were not only the second unit directors.
Wow.
After the first day, I'm very proud of us. No one wanted us to be there because the whole crew was like Scottish.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to do so much to bring us over. No one wanted us to be there. No one knew why we were there. And the first day they were running behind, and we had to run in and shoot B camera, which they weren't planning on having B cameras at all. And from that day forward, we were on the schedule for B camera every day. So we had to second unit direct everything we had to do, and be B camera, and do behind the scenes because we're so good at doing behind the scenes. Matt did some effects. Matt ended up being a like news host on it because he's a good actor. Anyway, it was that thing where like,
Wow.
and that film's in Tribeca in 2 weeks. So that's
Psyched about that. I like her.
Yeah.
I like her. I'm like one of the 7 people that watch Selfie. And like what
nice.
I really like about her is that she's a freaking chameleon. She's all over the place, and it blows my mind. Like I watched Jumanji, and I'm like, where do I know her from? And I'm thinking. I look it up, and I was like, holy crap, she was Nova in Guardians. And I was like, because like she doesn't look anything like herself. And then like even more so, like, again, Selfie, like she's a normal human being, but like the character in Selfie is not at all the character that she portrays in anything else. Like she's so good.
Yeah. And she's such a nice human being. Like, we didn't have a place to go for Christmas, so we Matt and I like spent Christmas with her family when we were over there. And all that kind of stuff. Like, she is a very nice person, and we did a
Welcome
job.
to
Now, I don't
Complex.
believe in doing a lot of jobs for free, but we did, like, she needed to shoot a picture, and she didn't have any time or any way to really do it. And so Matt and I came in and we just like did it for her, and it looked way better than she ever expected. And she just started looking at our stuff and watching Rain and watching all these things and asking us to send her links, and then she asked us to do that, and that was great. And then that created the opportunity when we were in Scotland. She had been shooting The Circle, which is like Tom Hanks and whoever, Emma Watson. And they had to do reshoots, but we were gearing up to shoot her film, and so she couldn't fly to Atlanta. So we just were the Inverness crew, and we shot stuff. So we're in The Circle. You know, like we were the Inverness unit in The Circle film. So it's like those kind of things like just happen because you present yourself and you're ready to go, and you just, you know, you're ready to do it.
Right.
And sometimes it's because there's no choice. Like,
right.
They were like, well, we got no choice. Like, yeah, shoot it. And they're like, okay, this looks good. Awesome. You know, it's that thing of like, you do often have to be like, you don't know how to do a job until you get there, especially for like jobs like second unit directing or working with cameras you've never been able to touch because you can't afford them.
Right.
Like
Red 8K.
Yeah.
$20,000 cameras.
God, like Matt and I had not, like, we just went to the gear shop in Scotland and made sure we got there 17 hours before everybody else, and just were like looking up YouTube videos, like, how do we work? Like, okay, all right, this is this. Oh my God, how do I put this camera together? Like, Alexa, like Alexa Mini, like, how do we put these, how do we put these together? How do we do this? And so,
thanks for hanging out.
Thanks so much for listening. It's been a pleasure. I love your thoughts on everything. But anyway, so I mean, I guess we've done more stuff than that, but yeah, I guess like name dropping. That's the name drops, I guess.
But see, like, and like that's and that's a crazy. I mean, like, but you know, and that wasn't, and that's one name, but that was so much work. Mm-hmm. So much, and that's just that one connection, and like that's like you said earlier, like you got to be ready for that. Like if you have that body of work to show, when you do encounter that one person, you could just be like, here you go. My cousin and I, we had shot a video for, he has a automotive YouTube channel. We had he met a guy, like a local guy. He goes to all the car shows. He's got a Lamborghini Murcielago, and we both liked the car. Like, it was a super cool car. Mm-hmm. And then he calls me one night and he says, hey, do you want to come out and shoot the Murcielago? And I was like, it's 11 o'clock. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, do you want to come out? We're going to do it in Rosemont. And I was like, okay, like, Rosemont's got a ton of lighting. Like, it's late, but like Rosemont is a super brightly lit like town. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we shoot this film at night. Like, he's hanging out the back of my Prius with the camera, recording as we're driving, like, just kind of literally last minute. We're like, like hanging things off the car, GoPros, just to get shots. He puts this film, like, he did all the editing for it, and then it was this really cool video. We're hanging out. We went to get ice cream at like the local like best joint, and this guy walks in and he's kind of like eyeballing me because I was like doing daily vlogs at the time, and I've got my camera with my tripod, and he's like, you know, I've got a better tripod for that. And I was like, what? Like, who are you? Like, who are you, sir? And it turns out they're, you know, like, him and his buddy, they're local. They make like accessories for GoPros and cameras and stuff, which is actually what the mount up there is.
Nice.
And they come through. They're like, oh, this is like our thing. This is what we make. And I was like, wow, this is like really high quality stuff and blah blah blah. And then they're like, do you have anything else to show us? Because we had shot the ice cream shop has like car shows there, so we had shown the owner like, hey, here's some videos of the stuff we've done. And this guy's like, wait, is this the guy, like, are these guys that do the car show videos? Because like the owner's been singing our praises apparently at that point.
That's awesome.
So it's like, we're like, that's definitely us. And then we show, like, you know, they're like, do you have anything, you know, like recent or whatever? And we pull up the Lamborghini video. We had just finished it, like, I think 3 weeks before. We show him the Lamborghini video. He gets, like, there's, you know, it's edited to the flow of a song. So it gets to the drop, and it's just this like super quick switch over with a couple awesome shots. He puts the phone down. He's like, "Listen, here's what we're gonna do." And I was like, "Yes, this is amazing."
Yeah.
So like our first commercial gig came out of that. It's like it's like you said, if you don't have the body of work, like we did it on a whim at 11 o'clock at night, like no permits or anything. Like we're just like, let's do it. Let's just do it quietly and disappear into the night.
Exactly. Crazy.
That's an outstanding point. Like welcome, Lionel. Thanks for joining. So, I see your rig back there. I'm not gonna lie. You mentioned that you did the Arrival stuff, super low budget. You said that you had brought them out to your living room, and that's where you set up the set. And I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, I'm just like imagining the crew walking in and being like, "What is this?"
It was actually where we ended up meeting Yuri Lowenthal. Who is a huge voiceover actor. He's been he's been in everything that you've watched. And
see, now I gotta look him up.
Yuri Lowenthal, and he's an amazing guy. He ended up being a voice on Rain. He ended up being in our feature film. He'll be in our feature films again. He's going to be a guest. Tara knows him. He's going to be a guest on her show on Caffeine. And like, you meet these people doing these things, and like, they weren't bummed out when they walked into our house, because one thing that we did is we the set maybe didn't look perfect, but we knew how we were going to shoot it.
Right.
And once we got them in front of the camera, we shot it. Matt went and color corrected it like immediately and came out and was like, "This is what it looks like." And they're like, "Oh,
that's
okay,
awesome.
Cool, awesome." And
they're like, "All right."
From then on, we got them, and so like you have to know what your weaknesses are, and you got to put them out front. So like you got to make those like the thing that, and then you can reel those people back in and be like, "We got this. We know that's our weakness. We know you're in our house right now, but let us show you what we're going to do and why this makes it better." And once you like just put those out there and you're fine with that, showing those weaknesses and knowing how you're going to overcome them, like showing people is just immediately it puts them at ease. And like one of the ways that we got connected, we do a lot of stuff for David Arquette, and like he saw one of our videos on Twitter and was like, "Guys, I really like what you do." And we're like, "Man, thanks so much. We like what you do." And he's like, "I actually got a documentary idea. Can I come by and talk to you guys about it? Where's your like business?" And we were living in the back of a gallery space. And so like he came in and he like was on the phone. And he's like, "Oh guys, I think I'm in the wrong spot." And he started to walk out. And we're like, whoa. Who are you coming to see? And he's like, Half Cut Tea or something. And we're like, "That's us." And he looked at us and he just like started laughing. And he was just like, "What?" Like what? And we're like, "Yeah." He's like, how many of you are here? And it's like, "It's just us two." and like we were able to get him, and we knew that he was gonna laugh whenever he realized that we weren't a real production company. But we got him in the door. He knew what we could do. He saw what the work looked like. That's all we needed to do to convince him. And so once he came in, once we broke that, and we're like, "We know we're only two people, but we can do what you want." And we've ended up shooting and producing and directing 12 commercials that we've done with him. We've shot pilots for him. He's a part of what we do. He helps us out, like, and that all started from being ready, being ready and knowing like this is our weakness. We know that we're a small company, but you know what? Because we can do this, and they can't. And it's just using that idea over and over again and be like, "I know that's my weakness. I know that. Like, I'll call it out first so you can't make fun of me."
Right, exactly.
And figure out why it's a positive. So like for us, we can go shoot Ghost of the Ozarks in Arkansas, fly everyone out there, and still come back and have made it for $1,700. You know what I mean?
That's like, crazy. That is so crazy to me. $1,700.
Yeah.
Like that's so like in the modern era of $200-300 million budgets, those numbers are like imperceptible. Like they're incomprehensible numbers. It's so much money that like you don't even know where it all goes.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
So to hear like I know what $1,700 looks like. Like I've held that much in my hands before.
Yeah.
So like to like think about converting that into what that short that I saw, like that's so incredible. It's so incredible.
Yeah. And it's that idea of like you're just putting extra zeros on it as you go up and as you shoot features and stuff like that. And like but like us starting from the bottom and actually being like,
Welcome, Munster.
like, and just taking that little bit of money and being like, where's it best used? Where can we get away with it not being there? And like, you start realizing you only spend money that's going to be on screen. You only spend money to make sure that people are happy, like that need to be happy, and like you don't waste it.
Right.
And so like as you get up in those bigger budgets, you do the same thing. And so we've been able to do things with budgets that like the Arrival thing. Like they were like, man, we got like $15,000, and I was like, I can do it for that. You better believe it. I can do it.
For sure.
And like give it to me, and I can because it was
Give
just
me
me and
the
Matt.
money.
Yeah, it was just me and Matt, and you know, and they paid for the actors, and I don't know how much they paid them, but whatever.
Right.
And like that's kind of how that happens. You're just like, sometimes you can be like, I can do that, you know, and like people laugh at you. People are like, you can't make a movie for that, and I'm like, good, then sit down and shut up, and I'll bring it back to you and let you know what it looks like. And,
Right.
And then people get bummed that they weren't a part of it, and that makes us so happy, you know, and then next time they all won't say no. So
Right, exactly. I've had that exact same moment. Many, like our first like actual like corporate customer, like when we incorporated, because we started doing money, like dealing with money that like had more than 2 zeros on it. So like I was like, I would like to keep it. Like I am now hiring artists to do things. You know, it was not just like my camera went real crazy there. It was I met an author at a convention, and he pitched me his book, and it was the first day. Like I was just coming through, like checking out the show, and I'm like, I'm coming back tomorrow to buy things. He pitches me the book. I come back, and I'm like, listen, here's my money. I'm buying the book because I think it's a cool idea. I need you to let me redo your website because it's garbage. Like I just flat out told him, like, your website is trash. Like I've done websites for at that point like 7-8 years. I'm like, I can do what you did in my sleep, therefore I can definitely do something better while I'm awake.
yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, it's always like, does it show? He's like, I bought a software, like I did it myself. It took me an hour.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it shows. And it's sad because like I love the pitch, I love the book. And then in that conversation, he starts talking about, oh, like I wanted to do this like animated comic trailer, and that's kind of when like that was just kind of starting up. And he's like, oh, I'm talking to this company. There was just a huge booth that was of a company that was doing that kind of stuff. And he's like, yeah, they're quoting me like $8,000. He's like, I'm not really trying to spend that much. I'm like, well, how much are you trying to spend? He's like, $2,000. I was like, I can do that. We definitely do it. I learned more about Premiere off of that single exchange, just for the fact of, man, how do I like get things to look like they're animated even though they're still images? And like we took this, you know, I just said, yeah, we can absolutely do it for that much. And then we did that, and then he said, cool. And then when he put a second book out, he said, I'm trying to do this again. I hired someone who knew what they were doing in After Effects, and you know, we escalated that game so much higher that like it made sense. It made sense. Like I was like, cool, this looked good enough for like an initial, but like this second time around, it's got to be better. So like we went with somebody who knew what they were doing, and like, you know, the price tag was a little higher, and he understood that, and like it's all it is.
Yeah, and that's important, to be able to price yourself at what you are worth is the hardest thing on the planet. And I think we talked about that last night a little bit. But yeah, it is so hard to know that you're worth an amount of money. And like, you know, Matt and I each year we take a challenge on our own, and like, you know, this year was like, let's start paying ourselves an actual salary. Like, let's start figuring this out. How does this work? And like, you just keep building on things, and before you know it, if you don't stop and you keep creating and doing the best that you can, like, you'll get to a point where you're like, wow, I'm making it. I'm doing something here, and like, but it's so hard. Like, value the time that you put in, and like, yes, you're gonna have to work sometimes for ending up being minimum wage because you put so many hours into it, but like, get what you're worth. Because somebody taught me, one of the best things they ever taught me about selling videos, and this works for anything, it's like, people were wanting to buy our videos, and like, I was like, I don't know how much to charge for this, and we just happened to be meeting with a guy that we were shooting, and he was like, charge him X amount of dollars, $1,500. And I was like, man, I was thinking like 400, 500, and he's like, no, you need one person to buy it at 1,500, but you need like, you know, like 3 people to buy it just to match that one. And he's like, you're not going to get them all, but you're going to get it's going to work for you in the long run. And so I took that. This is when we first started out, and I told people no. And like and David had been and he'd been in the business for a long time, and he was like, do not sell yourself short. You are worth it. And like just hearing that, like, and as soon as people started buying it for $1,500, and this was just for them to use it, something we had already shot,
right?
Like already been on the internet, already been on YouTube, and like they were actually paying that price because they're like, I'm using this for a show in Belgium, and like it's 7 minutes of content. Are you kidding me? $1,500 is a steal. And like you don't realize that, like, even though like YouTube has seen it 4 million times,
right?
There's a lot of people out there. And so like I was like, wow, I can still put stuff up on YouTube. We don't monetize it, and
oh,
and
really?
like, because no, and then like we just were selling them like overseas to different countries. And like if I hadn't have done that, if I'd have started selling those for what I thought I was going to be, which was like $200 to $500, I would have had to have like gotten like 10 people just to reach the amount of like one sale, because I didn't know what I was worth. And that's the hardest thing to figure out. And it's hard to be like, that's why like people have managers and agents, because that manager and agent will fight for them. But like if you're going one-to-one, it's so hard to like negotiate that price and be like, God, when you sit down and think about it, like, man, that seems like a lot of money. I understand that. But if I break it down for you, just understand it's not. And you know what? Not everybody's going to go for that price. And some people are going to be like, it's too much. And you just say, hey, I totally get it. God, I hope you get this thing done. I hope you nail it.
Right.
And like truly be happy, and don't be like angry that they don't give it to you. Just be like, man, I really hope you can find somebody who can kill this for you.
Right.
It's just not me, because I'll kill myself doing this for this price, and it benefits you way more than it benefits me.
Sure.
And it's like, I can't do that over and over again, or I'll never create on my own. No, exactly, Irene. Yeah, you have to know your worth, and you have to know that you're worth something, because no one else is going to tell you that. No one else is going to. Everybody wants it for a deal.
Right.
And everybody knows what you're worth secretly, and they know what they
right, exactly. For sure. Exactly. Because they've already done the reason they're looking for a deal is because they've already done the research. They know what the price is at the whatever level, and they know that they can't afford that, so they're coming to a different level just to find someone who's gonna not know that. They're gonna not know the worth.
Man,
so.
I'll tell you this quick little story, but like I won't name the company, but it's a company we love. And they asked us like if we wanted to shoot some behind the scenes for them, and we were like, yes, but you know what, we
welcome to know.
We were bigger at this point, and we were like, we know what we're worth, and we know what this needs to be, and we quoted them a price, and they were like, man, this is way too much. And we were like, we totally get it, we love you guys, but we just can't do it. And the whole time we were like, God, did we make the wrong decision? They're just going to find someone else. Oh my God. They did find someone else, and like literally like a week ago, we heard from the inside how much those people are hated and what a terrible job they're doing. And it's like, wow. It's not, and I feel bad for them,
right?
Because but I'm so happy that there was a little bit of validation there. Like, you know what you're getting, man. And I know this is a lot of money, but like in the end, I'm not getting paid that much for as much as I'm working for you. And like, you get what you pay for, you really do. And anyway, like that kind of validation every now and then, be like, you know what, I was worth that price. I felt bad about that for a couple months, and I felt like I really screwed something up. But you know what, no, like I would have been so mad at myself if we'd have been working for 7 months and done it at a price that wasn't realistic.
Right, for sure.
Anyway,
because that would have eaten up your time. You could have been doing something else. Potentially, you could have had client work that paid that the money that you needed, the money that you were worth.
It literally made us end up going like, let's go ahead and shoot our feature last year. And so we did. And if we would have had that, we probably wouldn't have that drive to be like, let's go get investors. Let's go do this time.
Right.
And, and so you got to always think of those things like, all right, I didn't get that thing. You know what? It's probably a really good thing. And it usually is. If you're on the right track, you know who you are and you know what you're going for. When you say no to those jobs, or those jobs aren't given to you, know that it's probably, I just look at it in a way of like, all right, the universe is telling me that I don't need to spend my time on that. I need to focus on this. And if you have a story to tell, if you want to inspire people, like the best thing to do is to create your own content and get it out there. And like, that's really a big reason that Matt and I left the art world, because we realized we were just talking to artists, and the entertainment business allows you to reach so many more people, and you can say something to so many more people who actually need to to be told something, need to be inspired,
For sure.
need to like feel good and be and question things. And so like for us, we were like, people in the art world laughed at us when we were like, we're gonna go out and make movies, and they're like, why do you want to do that lowbrow stuff? And it's like, because of people like you, because I don't want to talk to you anymore. I want to talk to people who like actually like, yeah, need to have a conversation and want to have a conversation, just don't know how.
The art world, especially critics in the art world. A good friend of mine is an incredible painter, Matthew Ryan Sharp. He's actually retired from showing and all that stuff, but he still does his graphic design stuff. But he's done many shows over the years. I've been to, I'd say, probably 90% of them. And there was one done in Milwaukee, and end of the show, we're walking out. Like, I drove up with him, so I'm leaving at the same time he is, and it's like the last guy there, you know, and he's got some stuff to say. And like, we're talking there 15, 20, 30 minutes, and this guy ends up just doubling back over everything he's saying. He thinks he's like on this next level, you know. He's like, oh man, like, you know, you really can't go into art with judgment, blah 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 blah. And then he's like, I really don't consider Dali an artist. And I was like, you know, like 3 minutes ago you said no judgment, but now it feels like you're judging. So it's like the people who've got some stuff to say about art have always got a lot of stuff to say about art.
Well, that's their job, right? Like that's the way that they keep going and doing their living. It's like, that's why you see like news correspondents not saying anything real, but just say it really loud because they keep getting paid for it. Like, it's just that same idea. So, you know, people are always going to hate what you do. Just make people love it or hate it. Don't make them just be like, meh. Like, make something that divides people in a way where it creates a conversation that you can talk about it.
For sure.
You can open up dialogue and be like, I see why you don't like it, but I have I want to talk to you about that. I see why you love it, but I want you to talk to this person. And I just creating these conversations like opens up the ability to actually have civil discourse, which we don't get a lot. And so
true.
I don't
Very
know,
true.
like that's, we have a lot of things that we want to say. Are we more important than anyone else? No, but we do feel like we have things that like will positively impact people and at least inspire them. And I think that's why we get sent to universities to speak a lot, because we come from a very like a background of small towns, not a lot of money, doing our own thing, making it happen. And like, we want to show people, we want to tell people how to do that. And I think that's a reason that people like to hear us talk and that kind of jazz, is they feel like I can do it too, because they can, because we're no different than them. We just don't stop.
Right.
And if you don't stop, you're going to make it, you know, like if you have an ounce of talent and you don't stop, then you can figure out a way to make it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, I feel, you know, kind of on a bit of a tangent, but I feel like a lot of people are told, and there's a lot of information out there that kind of says, hey, you can be this thing and this level of thing, like, regardless. And I think there is that difference. Like, there are people, like you said, there are people who are going to grind and never stop. Like, I think one of my favorite quotes from Will Smith, who is like a personal hero of mine, I'll be honest. He said, you may be more talented than me. He's like, you may be more capable than me. He's like, but I am not afraid to die on the treadmill. He's like, if we get on the treadmill, you're either getting off before me or I'm going to die there. So it's he's like, I'm willing to work more than you, guaranteed, regardless. You could be better than me, you could be more talented, more capable, but at the end of the day, I'm going to outwork you. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't hear that when they hear a lot of the talk of, oh, you could be, you know, you can make movies, you can be an entrepreneur, you could be, you know, like, oh, there's a lot of talk, you know, these days, and like people like streaming, for instance, like we're on Caffeine. Broadcasting, streaming is a huge thing. There's people making just huge moves. You know, what was it like? Just the other day, there was 100 broadcasters. They did a game of Fortnite. It was this number may be wrong, but it's over the million mark. It was like no. That was the first one. That was the first record, and then like a week later, 100 broadcasters. So this one dude did the actual broadcast, but him and 99 other people who broadcast, who are like known in the gaming world, all did one game of Fortnite together. and they had like 2.5 million concurrent viewers. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, the numbers are insane. So people hear that and they jump on. They're like, yo, I love playing video games. And they get on, and it's like, there's levels to that. There is, like, how much talent you have, but there's also how much work you're going to do. There is so much that goes into it.
Everything,
There's just so much that goes into it, and this is, in every field and everything that you do. I could make unboxing videos and just make a overhead camera of me unboxing stuff for the rest of my life. That's only going to get me to a certain point. But if I keep working to make that exact thing better and better and better and better, then you look at somebody like Unbox Therapy, which I don't know if you've ever seen one of his videos, but like,
I think so, yeah.
It's gotten to such a ridiculous degree. Just the other day I watched, and he got sent like in this like rolling case, 4 very special edition phones, and it was like, the case rolls in on the table and he opens it up. It's this like, secret agent thing. Like, it was like, you compare that to one of the early videos, it's like a whole different ballgame. Because consistency, and he stepped up the game every single time he hit the record button.
For sure.
So, that's the thing, is like, there's so much that goes into any field, anything that you do. And I think a lot of people don't hear that when they hear like what you can be.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It takes a lot to get there, and none of us are there yet. We don't, like, we're all just trying to get there, and we're all working toward a goal, and that's what keeps us being creators and keeps us being passionate, is just like never being satisfied with ourselves. You still have to like be okay with yourself and know that you're of worth, but like, we'll just never be satisfied, and that's something that keeps us going and will continue to keep us going. So yeah,
for sure. One I guess kind of final-ish topic, I would like your thoughts on the future of film, the future of filmmaking. I know there's a lot of speculation on the technology side of things, kind of where things are going. 8, 10, 12, 46K is coming, I'm sure. There's only so many definitions, and I don't know where we keep coming up with new ones. What do you think? Do you think something like VR is going to be an interesting space to work in? Do you think recording 3D, like full experience kind of situations, do you think that's going to be, I don't want to say the future, because I feel like the two-dimensional like screen film is going to be always there. There's always going to be a place for it, because not everyone, people get motion sickness and all these other things. But do you think that's going to be like something that you'd want to play with, and do you think that's going to be something that's going to be important?
I think that I'm going to do the biggest cop-out answer ever. I think that storytelling is storytelling, and I think that trumps everything. And I think you see, like, there's a great VR film at Sundance, which was this like a couple years back, which was like Matt. I don't know if Matt's on. He's probably working on the documentary, which I'm gonna have to jump back on. But it was basically this experience of like, you were riding in a car.
I'd be a weirdo if I was still here.
And Matt can probably attest to this. It was supposed to be like this person riding in a car, and like your friends roll up to this convenience store. They go in, and then all of a sudden they start robbing the convenience store. And you're in this car and you don't know what to do, and like you start hearing like police cars like coming from far off, and like you have to make these decisions. And like I think that, like on a VR level, that film does everything that VR can do. It like puts you in a position like, where do you hide, what do you do, what story, like everywhere you look. And I think that's very hard with VR. Like, you always get these things where you're just like, Google Nani de la Pena, she does VR journalism. Okay, awesome. Like that's a great one, Matt.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And like, I think VR just lends itself to certain kind of storytelling better, but people who push it on itself aren't going to do a good job, and it's just going to kind of like fade off into something else. But those people who really do it well, they'll stick around and they'll utilize that. It's like people who shoot movies on iPhones. We know that those iPhones are like $7,000 iPhones because they've had so many attachments.
Right. I love that's always my favorite. Is shot on a Samsung, shot on an iPhone, and then you zoom out, and then it's like camera, gimbal, drone, like.
Yeah, but it's like people have been telling stories. Like bards have been telling stories for ages that have enthralled people. I know a guy right now. I can't think of his name, but the guy who came to Overlook who like just told stories.
Just
Clay.
anyway. Like verbally.
Yeah, like verbally. Like his name's Clay something, but he just sold he sold one of his like verbal story ideas. Like it's being made into a TV show. I just saw this like 2 days ago, but like it's because he's so engaging and he just knows how to tell a story and he writes a good story. And I don't like awesome. And I don't think that like I don't think it matters how you tell the story. I think like if you look at something like Moonlight, like you can look at Moonlight and it's such an amazing story, but like there are out of focus shots. There are like it's not like a perfect movie, but it in that regard, but it won the Oscar because it's like such an enthralling, such an amazing story, and like that's what really eventually will trump all. Whether it gets the awards or not, that's beyond the point.
Sure.
A story that's really good, like it doesn't really matter. You still enjoy movies that are in black and white that are just really good stories. Like you still love hearing like a grandfather or a parent tell a story that you like just love hearing. Like that captures you and that engages you. And I don't know what the future is like. We'll chase it. Like Matt and I are not opposed to any kind of technology, as long as it like befits the story and makes it better.
Sure.
But there's no reason to just use it to use it. That's why you see stuff like, man, you got enough drone shots already? Like that kind of thing. Like, you know, like, oh man, is this MTV Cribs? Like, why is everything on a slider? Like, sure it can be, but it doesn't need to be.
Right.
And like, just because you have a different tool, just because you have cameras that can like focus everything at once, and then you can pick how you want to rack focus. Like, yeah, that makes it easier to a degree, but it also takes away the spontaneity as much, and like takes away that storytelling that is that stuff, that nuanced stuff that you catch in the moment because you didn't have another way to do it. Like the first 7 minutes of our film had to be shot in one day. It was 64 shots, and it is so beautiful because we planned it out and we were like, okay, we gotta cut this out. We can't shoot it this way because we won't have time. We got to get back to our documentary like style roots, and it's just gorgeous because we had no other choice. We would have shot it over like 3 or 4 days,
right?
But because of weather and like we could only get the voice of ABC for 2 days before he had to be back into the booth to film, you know, to do his voiceover. So it was like these constraints cause something to be beautiful, and that often happens when we're making a movie. As my final point, there are often those things that you're like, this is the worst part of the movie at this moment, and you go in and you mess with it, and because you have to, because you're like, wow, we can't reshoot this. How do we make this? And like you mess with it, you think up creative ideas to fix the problem, and then it becomes the best part of the movie, or it comes to the best part of the documentary because you had to put so much soul and heart into that one little section because you didn't do something right or because something was out of your control. And like that happens more often than not. And so these kind of things that help those rich people make things perfectly, that doesn't mean they can tell stories better than you, and that doesn't mean that they have the heart and the drive to figure out problems as they come up like you do. And so no, you always have an upper hand if you have that drive. And I think that's something that we just have to you have to keep remembering. You may not have the best stuff, but you can tell the best story. Nothing stops you from that.
And I think that is the perfect note to end on. It doesn't, the stuff doesn't matter, the story does. I like it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for all the wisdom and the great stories. And
Maddie just said the wisdom? Thank you guys.
There's lots of wisdom, Matt Glass.
Yeah.
Lots of wisdom.
Yeah, I know you're going to get Maddie on here soon, and that's going to be fun. He's the most talented man I know. So thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And we'll be seeing you on all the platforms. Links in the video, links down below for those watching in the future. And we'll see you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys.
All right, folks, that's it for this one. If you did not get a chance to join us for this one, if you are watching in the future, make sure you come to caffeine.tv/T3G Media. Every Wednesday, we're going to be doing our broadcast for comic books and comic book culture and subjects and themes and all that sort of stuff. And Thursdays, we're going to be doing this show. passion as a business. And we're going to be doing that with new guests, new topics, and new conversations on pursuing what you love as a way of life, as a living. So thank you for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, check out the main channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.